In May of 2002, at an auction house in Paris, a ring sold in 30 seconds. The auctioneer read the description aloud. Harry Winston, New York, 22.3, 7 carats, D, color, internally flawless, platinum setting. Provenance, the estate of Her Imperial Highness, Princess Soraya Esfandiary-Bakhtiari, formerly Empress of Iran. The bidding opened at 400,000 euros. Then, greater, it closed at $838,000. The gavel came down. Someone in the room raised a paddle and then lowered it. The ring moved on. This is what objects do. They move on. 51 years before that morning in Paris, the same ring had arrived in Tehran inside a case transported by hand from Harry Winston's flagship on 5th Avenue, because no one was willing to check it through customs. It had been placed on the finger of a 22-year-old woman who was standing in 37 yards of silver lame, running a fever, while a lady-in-waiting cut away the lining of her dress with dressmaking scissors so that she could breathe. The wedding was already behind schedule. The flowers, 1.5 tons of them, flown overnight from the Netherlands, had begun to wilt slightly in the heat of the chandeliers. The ring did not wilt. It simply caught the light and broke it into pieces across the ceiling of the marble palace. Diamonds do not have memories, which is perhaps why they last longer than the people who wear them. Or perhaps it is the other way around. They last longer than us precisely because they remember nothing. They carry no grief. They hold no particular loyalty to the hands that have held them. The dress was cut, the fever passed, the ceremony proceeded, and the diamond, which had seen none of it and would outlast all of it, waited on her finger for what came next. To understand what happened in 1958, you have to understand what 1951 looked like from the inside. Soraya had not grown up expecting to become a queen. Her father was an Iranian tribal chieftain of the Bakhtiari clan, which held considerable power in the southwestern provinces. Her mother was Eva Karl, a German woman who had followed her husband east and raised her daughter between Tehran and the alpine quiet of Cologne. Soraya had studied in England and Switzerland. She spoke French with more ease than she spoke Persian. When she arrived at a party in Tehran in the autumn of 1950 and was introduced to the Shah by a mutual acquaintance, she was 21 years old and had no particular plan. The Shah, by all accounts, did not take his eyes off her for the remainder of the evening. They were engaged within weeks. The courtship was swift in the way that royal courtships often are, when the man has decided, and the apparatus of the state falls into line behind him. There were fittings in Paris. There were telegrams to Christian Dior. There were negotiations with Harry Winston's in New York, where a stone of exceptional quality was selected, cut, and prepared for transport. The stone weighed 22.37 carats. It was placed in a simple platinum solitaire setting at the client's request. The client was the Shah of Iran. When the ring arrived in Tehran, it was carried by hand. The wedding took place during a cold snap. Soraya had fallen ill with influenza in the days preceding the ceremony, and the palace physicians had debated whether to postpone. The Shah said no. The invitations had already gone out. 36 heads of state had confirmed attendance. The flowers from the Netherlands were already on the aircraft. So she stood in the marble palace on the evening of the 12th of February, shivering inside a dress that weighed more than she had anticipated, while a woman she had known for 6 weeks cut away the inner lining with a pair of dressmaking scissors so that she could breathe. The tiara they placed on her head was from the Qajar Dynasty. It had belonged to women who had lived and died in this palace before she was born. The cold of the metal went through her scalp. She did not flinch. Among the wedding gifts arranged along the tables of the reception hall was a coat, Russian sable, floor length, sent from Moscow by Joseph Stalin. Sable had been the fur of the Tsars, darker and finer than any other pelt, the kind that absorbed light rather than reflecting it. It was, in the hierarchy of luxury that the Soviet premier understood very well, the most expensive statement a man could make without saying a word. It arrived without a personal note. In the photographs from that night, Soraya looks directly into the camera, not at the Shah, not at the guests, not at the flowers, directly into the camera. Her expression is not happiness, exactly. It is something more like certainty. As though she has made a decision she fully intends to honor. The ring is visible in every photograph. It catches the light from the chandeliers and breaks it into small fires across the silver of her dress. For 7 years, the ring was on her finger at every state occasion, every diplomatic dinner, every private evening in the Imperial apartments. She wore it to a reception at Buckingham Palace in 1955. She wore it to a state visit in Washington, where Eisenhower shook her hand and held it a moment longer than protocol required. She wore it in the mornings, at breakfast, when it was just the two of them, and the newspapers, and the tea that was always brought at 8 o'clock. She wore it the afternoon. The doctor came to the palace and spoke to her alone. The report was not new information. Exactly. There had been tests before, in other years, with other specialists. But this particular afternoon, in this particular room, with the light coming through the curtains at that particular angle, something changed. The Shah was not present. He was in a meeting with the ministers of the Interior. The report sat on the table between Soraya and the physician, and neither of them spoke for some time. The ring was on her left hand, resting on the edge of the table. She had been married for 4 years. She was 26 years old. She was the Empress of Iran, and she could not give the throne an heir. This fact, on its own, was not unusual in the histories of royal marriages. What made Soraya's situation particular was the layer beneath the fact. She was not willing to accept the arrangement that had been quietly proposed through intermediaries in the corridors of the palace. The Shah could take a second wife, a woman capable of bearing children. Soraya could keep her title, her apartments, her jewels, her position. She would remain empress in all things except the one that mattered most to the men who kept the state running. She refused, not with anger, not, by any account, with a scene. She simply said no, and the word closed something in the room that had not been closed before. People who knew her in those years have said that she never talked about the decision afterwards. Not in Rome, not in Paris, not in the interviews she gave occasionally to European magazines when she needed money. She did not discuss what it cost her. She had made a choice, and she did not perform grief about it. There is a photograph from 1956, taken at a private garden party at the Sadabad Palace. Soraya is sitting in a white chair, slightly apart from the other guests. The ring is on her hand. She is looking at something outside the frame of the photograph. Her expression is entirely unreadable. That photograph was taken 2 years before the end. The conversation took place in February of 1958, 7 years to the month after the wedding. The room was the Shah's private study in the Marble Palace, the same building, different furniture, by then, because the Shah had redecorated twice. The flowers that had been flown in from the Netherlands in 1951 were long gone. There were no flowers in the study that afternoon. They had both known it was coming. That is perhaps the most difficult detail to hold. Neither of them was surprised. The pressure from the court, from the clergy, from the political establishment had been building for years, and both of them had watched it build the way you watch water rise in a room you cannot leave. There had been conversations before this conversation, quieter ones, in which the same territory had been crossed without resolution, but this was the final one. In the years that followed, the Shah spoke of Soraya with the particular care of a man who understood the weight of what had been given up. He said she had been the true love of his life. He said it clearly, without hesitation, in public. He also ensured, with equal clarity, that she would be provided for, a substantial monthly allowance, guaranteed in writing, no conditions attached beyond the usual expectations of discretion. These two things, the sentiment and the settlement, existed alongside each other, without contradiction in his mind. He was a man of his position and his century, and he managed the end of his marriage the way such men manage difficult necessities, with genuine feeling, and with an efficiency that did not wait for the feeling to pass before proceeding. He was not cold, he was not cruel, he was simply already looking at what came next, even while he was still in the room with her. In the study, on the afternoon in question, they apparently wept, both of them. This detail appears in multiple accounts, from sources that had no reason to coordinate their stories, so it is probably true. Two people in a room, crying, because the thing that was ending was real, and they both knew it. She would go to Europe, they agreed, for a rest, to let things settle. This was the language they used. Settle. As though what was happening was merely a disturbance in the air and not a permanent rearrangement of everything. The ring was on her finger during that conversation. She left Tehran on the 14th of February, 1958. She took the Harry Winston diamond. She took the Van Cleef pieces and the Bulgari necklaces because they had been personal gifts, and the agreement was clear on this point. She took the Russian sable coat that Stalin had sent from Moscow 7 years before because it was hers and because February in the mountains of Europe would be cold. She did not take the Qajar tiara that belonged to the state. She left it in a velvet case in the room where they had placed it on her head 7 years earlier. The aircraft took her to Rome. A photographer from Paris Match was at the airport and captured the moment of departure. In the photograph, her face is turned away from the camera towards the steps of the aircraft. Her coat is dark. Her hair is covered. The ring is not visible in this photograph. Her hands are at her sides. The caption ran the following week in Paris Match, alongside photographs of the Shah and a statement from the Imperial court. The statement used the word regret 4 times. It did not use the word love. She moved to Rome first, then Paris. She learned to sit in cafes without being recognized. It took longer than she expected. The apartment in Paris was on the Avenue Montaigne. It was, by any standard outside the one she had been living by, a very good apartment. The furniture was good, the view was good. She had money, because the allowance arrived reliably each month, and she spent it carefully. She bought clothes, because clothes had always been a language she spoke fluently. She attended parties, because she had always attended parties, and did not know how to stop. She tried acting. In Rome, in the early 1960s, she appeared in a small number of Italian productions. The reviews were not unkind. They were also not enthusiastic. The problem, several critics noted, was that she had a face the camera loved, but a presence that seemed designed for a larger frame than any film could provide. She stopped after a few years. The Shah married Farah Diba in 1959. Farah gave him a son the following year. The dynasty continued. The machinery of the state moved forward, as machinery does. Soraya read about it in the newspapers. She kept the ring. She wore it sometimes, at private dinners, at evenings, with the small circle of friends she had accumulated in Paris, diplomats and artists, and the occasional exiled aristocrat who had ended up in the same arrondissement for similar reasons. When people asked about it, she said it was a gift. She did not elaborate. Nobody pressed her. There is no record of her speaking about the Shah after 1960. Not to the press, not in the memoir she published in 1963, not in any interview that has been preserved. The memoir is a precise and carefully written document. It describes her childhood, her marriage, her years in Tehran. It describes the Shah with a restraint that is its own form of testimony. She does not say she loved him. She does not say she did not. She was 51 years old when the Shah died, in Cairo, in 1980, in exile, after the revolution had dismantled everything he had built and rendered it historical. She was living in Paris. She sent no public statement. She lived for another 21 years. Soraya Esfandiary-Bakhtiari died in her apartment on the Avenue Montaigne on the 25th of October, 2001. She was 69 years old. The cause was listed as heart failure. There were no children. There was no immediate family in Paris at the time of her death. A German cousin handled the initial arrangements. The funeral was held in Munich. She was buried in Bogenhausen Cemetery, in the city where her mother's family had come from. There were no representatives from Iran. There were no representatives from the Pahlavi family, though a former associate of the Shah's sent flowers. The grave is marked with a simple stone. It gives her name and the years of her birth and death. It does not say Empress. It does not say Princess. It gives only the name and the numbers, which is perhaps the most honest summary available. The contents of the Avenue Montaigne apartment were catalogued by the estate and offered for sale by Bozon Lefebvre, a Paris auction house, over 3 days in May of 2002. The catalogue was precise in the manner of all good auction catalogues. It described each object in terms of its physical properties: weight, cut, color, provenance. The word provenance appeared frequently because provenance was, in this case, the entire point. The objects in that apartment had been places. They had witnessed things. The catalogue recorded this in the neutral language of commerce. Lot 47, 1 diamond, solitaire ring, Harry Winston, New York. Stone, 22.37 carats. Setting, platinum solitaire. Provenance, the estate of Her Imperial Highness Princess Soraya Esfandiary-Bakhtiari. Estimate, 400, 000 euros. It sold for $838,350. The buyer's name was not disclosed. Also sold, a sapphire and diamond necklace by Bulgari, given to Soraya by the Shah in approximately 1953. A suite of ruby and diamond pieces by Van Cleef and Arpels. The Russian sable coat from Stalin, floor length, which had been in storage for years and showed some wear at the cuffs. The fur that had once been darker than shadow, the fur of SARS, went for considerably less than its companions. Personal correspondence, photographs, a small collection of books in French and Persian, with annotations in the margins in 2 different hands. The total realized was slightly over $6 million, more than double the pre-sale estimate. Because Soraya had died without a will and without direct heirs, the proceeds passed, under German inheritance law, to the public budget of the federal state of North Rhine-Westphalia. The ring that had arrived in Tehran in the winter of 1951 now belonged to someone whose name the auction house did not record. It left the sale room in a case. It crossed a city. It entered a room. It is somewhere tonight. It has been in many rooms. It remembers all of them. Lot 47, 1 diamond solitaire ring. Maker, Harry Winston, New York. Stone, 22.37 carats. D-color, internally flawless. Setting, platinum, solitaire. Provenance, the estate of Her Imperial Highness, Princess Soraya Esfandiary-Bakhtiari, formerly Empress of Iran. Estimate, 400,000 to 600,000 euros. Lot 61, 1 sapphire and diamond necklace. Maker, Bulgari, Rome. Provenance, gift of His Imperial Majesty, Mohammed Reza Shah, Pahlavi, to Her Imperial Highness Princess Soraya, circa 1953. Estimate, 200, 000 to 300, 000 euros. Lot 89, 1 coat, Russian sable, floor length. Provenance, gift of Marshal Joseph Stalin to Her Imperial Highness, Princess Soraya Esfandiary-Bakhtiari, on the occasion of the Imperial wedding, Tehran, February 1951. Estimate, 15, 000 to 20, 000 euros. The hammer came down on all 3. Nobody in that room in Paris in May of 2002 had been in Tehran in February of 1951. Nobody had seen the scissors take the dress apart. Nobody knew about the doctor's report, or the final conversation in the study, or the photograph at the airport where her hands were at her sides and the ring was not visible. They knew the carats and the color grade and the estimate. They knew the provenance, in the abbreviated sense that auction houses use the word a name, a date, a title that no longer attached to any living person. The Shah had provided for her generously and spoken of her with evident feeling and continued the business of ruling a country. He was not wrong to do any of these things. He was simply a man who had made a necessary decision in a world that required such decisions to be made, and had then got on with it. This is perhaps the least dramatic explanation for what happened, and also, probably, the most accurate one. Soraya had said no to the arrangement they proposed. She had taken the ring and the necklaces and the sable coat and the life that came with them, and she had lived that life for 43 years in the city of Paris, which is not the worst place to spend 43 years. What is it worth to keep a gift from someone who no longer wants you? The ring sold in 30 seconds. The gavel came down. The number was recorded. Somewhere in that room, a paddle went up, and then the diamond moved on to its next life, carrying everything it had seen and explaining none of it. That is the nature of objects that outlast the people who loved them. They hold the story. They simply never tell it.